Last week, we talked about how Elijah called Elisha to continue his ministry of prophecy in Israel, and how Elisha took up that ministry and became the prophet of God in Israel. And actually, there are twice as many miracles listed in the Bible from Elisha as there were from Elijah. And at this time, the time that Elisha is the prophet in Israel is in around 851 BC, which is during the reign of Jehoram, Jehu, Jehoahaz, and Joash. You're not going to have to remember all those, but I just want you to know that it really happened. He really was a prophet at the time of real kings in the real land of Israel. We talk about Bible stories, but we don't use the word story because they're made up. We use the word story because it's true, it's history. So, Elisha was the prophet in Israel, the prophet of God in Israel, at around the 851 BC, before and after. We are going to be in 2 Kings chapter 6 today. We're going to be talking about chapter 6 verses 8 through 23. So first we're going to just read 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 8 through 12. And we're going to break this up into 4 very small sections, and then we're going to have 2 points at the end. So the first section we're going to read is 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 8 through 12. Once, when the king of Syria was warring against Israel, he took counsel with his servants, saying, "At such and such a place shall be my camp." But the man of God sent word to the king of Israel, "Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are going down there." And the king of Israel sent to the place about which the man of God told him. Thus he used to warn him, so that he saved himself there more than once or twice. And the mind of the king of Syria was greatly troubled because of this. And he called his servants and said to them, "Will you not show me who of us is for the king of Israel?" And one of the servants said, "None, my lord, O king, but Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom." So, the king of Syria, some translations say Aram. It's the same thing, it's a different name for the same thing. So the king of Syria is at war with the king of Israel, and when he makes plans for what his army is going to do, Elisha tells the king of Israel. And this has happened several times where the king of Syria is like, "What is going on?" And he goes to his men and says, "Which one of you is helping the king of Israel?" And one of them says, "No, none of us, we're not doing it. It's the prophet of God, Elisha. He is the one that's telling the king of Israel what's going on." What do you think the king of Syria is going to do here? Let's continue reading in 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 13 through 16. So this is our second part we're going to read. 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 13 through 16. And so the king said, "Go and see where he is, that I may send and seize him." It was told him, "Behold, he is in Dothan." So he went there, horses and chariots and a great army, and they came by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army of horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, "Alas, my master, what shall we do?" And he said, "Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." The king of Syria says, "Where is this man Elisha?" They tell him he's in Dothan, so he goes, he sends his army with his horses and chariots, and they surround the city. And then the servant of Elisha wakes up, and he sees that they are surrounded by all of this army of their enemies, and he says, "Master, what are we going to do?" And Elisha's like, "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid." Are you afraid sometimes? Do you get worried about things? I think we all do. We all do. We wish that we didn't get worried. We wish we had complete and total faith in the Lord. But sometimes we get worried. And we need someone to say, don't worry. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Whatever you are going through, whatever is causing you anxiety, the Lord is bigger than that. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. So let's keep reading 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 17 through 20. Then Elisha prayed and said, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So Elisha can see that the army of the Lord is bigger than the army of the Syrians. They're just people. They may be big and strong, and the enemies of Elisha, but they're just people. And the Lord is bigger and stronger. And the servant is scared, and Elisha says, "Please, let him see. Open his eyes." And then he sees that the hills are full of horses and chariots of fire. The army of the Lord is with them. What is Elisha going to do here? What do you think? Is he going to call down the army of the Lord to murder all of the Syrians? What's he going to do? He's surrounded by an enemy, and he knows that the one he is with is bigger and stronger. Let's see what Elisha's going to do. Let's keep reading. 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 21 through 23. As soon as the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, "My father..." Oh, no. 2 Kings 6, 17 through 20. That's where we are. 2 Kings 6, 17 through 20. Then Elisha prayed and said, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And when the Syrians came down against him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, "Please strike this people with blindness." So he struck them with blindness in accordance with the prayer of Elisha. And Elisha said to them, "This is not the way. This is not the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek." And he led them into Samaria. As soon as they entered Samaria, Elisha said, "O Lord, open the eyes of these men that they may see." So the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. So God opens the eyes of the servant so that he can see that the armies of the Lord are stronger and bigger and more powerful than the armies of Syria. That even when they are bigger and stronger, Elisha prays, "Please let them not be able to see." And then he says, "You're not in the right place. Come with me. I'll show you where you need to go." And so he leads this big army of blind people right to the king of Israel. He doesn't choose slaughter. He doesn't choose to overcome them with might and power. He prays to the Lord and says, "Please, make them so that they can't see." And then he takes them to the king of Israel. And then once he gets there, he says, "Please, Lord, let them see again." And they can see again. Then he gets to the king of Israel, and in chapter 6, verses 21 through 23, as soon as the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, "My father, shall I strike them down? Shall I strike them down?" He answered, "You shall not strike them down. Would you strike down those whom you have taken captive with your sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master." So he prepared for them a great feast, And when they had eaten and drunk, he sent them away, and they went to their master. And the Syrians did not come again on raids into the land of Israel. So this army, the enemy army, comes walking in to the king of Israel, and they can't see. Then Elisha prays that the Lord would open their eyes, and they are opened again. And then the king of Israel says, well, what should I do with them? Should I kill them? Should I kill them? And Elisha says, no. Give them food and water, and let them go home to their king. And so the king of Israel sets out, it says, a great feast for them. And when they've eaten and drunk everything that they've wanted to eat and drink, then he sends them home to their king. And then they don't raid Israel anymore. When we are presented with our enemies, how do we respond? Do we reach out in vengeance? Do we get angry with them? Are we unforgiving? Do we hope that something bad happens to them? How do we respond when the people who are mean to us, how do we respond to them? Do we get mean back? Are we angry? How did Elisha tell the king of Israel to respond? Give them food, give them water, and send them back home. And how did that end? It says they didn't raid in Israel anymore. It ended the conflict. Sometimes, as Christians, most of the time as Christians, we are called to end the conflict. If someone is being angry and mean to us, we do not respond in anger or meanness. When someone gossips about us, we do not respond by gossiping about them. When someone takes our stuff, we don't respond by snatching it back. We are called to live in peace, to bring peace, to make peace. Sometimes I feel like we might be like the servant earlier in the story that we don't see. We don't see that the God that is with us is bigger than anything that we can come up against. And we feel like it's on us to make things right, or it's on us to empower our own selves. That is not the case. The Lord is with us. The hills around us are full of the Lord's army. He will fight for us. He will make things right. We don't need to be grabby or snatchy or try to take everything that's ours. We talk a lot about what we are entitled to or what is supposed to be ours. You know what's ours? What the Lord gives us. Rest in that. Know that the Lord will take care of you. He loves you and He will take care of you. You need only to be still and trust Him.